I still remember the first time I tried to speak English. I was standing in front of a mirror, holding a spoon like a microphone, pretending I was on a stage giving a TED Talk. My audience? A group of very supportive shampoo bottles and a nervous-looking toothbrush. I looked at myself, took a deep breath, and said, "Hello, my name is..." Then I froze. My brain knew what I wanted to say, but my tongue had other plans. It felt like someone had tied a knot in my mouth. The words were in there somewhere, but they just wouldn't come out. That was the beginning of my English adventure. Back then, I thought learning English meant memorizing long vocabulary lists, doing grammar drills until my hand hurt, and listening to boring CDs that sounded like robots reading from a textbook. But oh, how wrong I was. English wasn't just a subject. It was a tool, a key, a whole new world I hadn't even started exploring. At first, I did what most people do. I downloaded every app that promised to make me fluent in 30 days. Day 1, I was motivated. I set goals. I created a study plan. Day 2, I was still excited. Day 3, I forgot to open the app. Day 4, I deleted it to make space for cat videos. But I didn't give up. I knew deep down that if I could learn how to speak English, I could change my life. I wasn't just chasing a language. I was chasing freedom. The freedom to travel, to understand movies without subtitles, to make friends from all over the world, to apply for better jobs, to read books that had never been translated into my language. English wasn't a goal. It was a bridge, and I was ready to cross it. So I made a new plan. A fun plan. A crazy plan. I called it Operation English Everywhere. I turned my phone into an English zone. I changed the language settings. I subscribed to English YouTube channels. I followed English-speaking Instagram pages. Every time I opened my phone, it was like stepping into a new country. The first few days were confusing. I accidentally deleted my calendar trying to understand a notification. But I was learning. Slowly, happily, and in my own messy way. Then I made a promise to myself. No more boring study sessions. I wasn't going to sit in silence staring at grammar books like I was preparing for an exam from 1923. I wanted English to feel alive. I wanted it to make me laugh, cry, dance, sing. So I did the weirdest thing. I started talking to myself in English. All the time. In the shower, I gave motivational speeches like I was a presidential candidate. My fellow shampoo bottles, today we fight for progress. While walking down the street, I described everything I saw. A red car, a happy dog, a man wearing socks with sandals. Interesting choice. At night, I told myself bedtime stories in English, even if I only knew 10 words. It was strange. It was awkward. It was beautiful. And it worked. One day I decided to watch a movie without subtitles. I chose a romantic comedy because I thought it would be easy. Big mistake. I had no idea what anyone was saying. The characters spoke too fast, used slang, and sometimes whispered. I only understood 2 words, okay and wow. I felt defeated. But then I watched it again and again. The 3rd time, I understood a sentence. The 5th time, I understood a joke. The 10th time, I was laughing at all the right moments. I realized something amazing. Repetition is magic. I didn't need to understand everything at once. I just needed to keep coming back. Another turning point was music. I fell in love with English songs, not just the rhythm, but the lyrics. I printed the lyrics, sang along, even when I sounded like a confused goat. I paused after every line, repeated the words, and tried to feel the emotion behind them. I didn't just learn words, I felt them. I remember listening to a song called Brave and thinking, that's what I want to be. I want to be brave in English. So I started speaking with real people. The first time I joined an English speaking club online. My hands were sweating. My heart was racing. I was about to speak with strangers from different countries. When it was my turn, I said, "Hello, I'm very happy." It wasn't perfect, but people smiled. They listened. They supported me. That night, I didn't sleep. I was too excited. I had spoken English out loud to real people, and the world didn't explode. In fact, it felt amazing. After that, I joined more groups. I made friends from Brazil, Japan, Nigeria, Italy, and India. We shared stories, practiced together, laughed at our mistakes, and learned from each other. English wasn't just grammar anymore. It was connection. It was laughter. It was real. I also fell in love with reading. Not textbooks, but simple stories. Children's books, graded readers, blogs written by language learners. I carried a tiny book with me everywhere and read whenever I had a free moment. On the bus, during lunch breaks, waiting in line. At first, I didn't understand every word, but I didn't let that stop me. I guessed the meaning, underlined new words, and enjoyed the process. The words became my friends. Some were shy and hard to remember. Others showed up in every sentence like excited puppies. Then came writing. I bought a notebook and started a journal in English. Every morning, I wrote how I felt. Sometimes it was just one sentence. Today is sunny. I feel good. Other days, I wrote whole paragraphs about my dreams, my goals, and the pizza I ate last night. I didn't worry about mistakes. I wrote with joy, like a kid discovering crayons for the first time. The more I wrote, the more I thought in English. And that's when something magical happened. I stopped translating in my head. English stopped being a foreign language. It started to feel like my own. One of the funniest things that happened was when I accidentally spoke English to my grandma, who doesn't know a single word. I walked into her house and said, "Hi, Grandma. How are you today?" She stared at me like I had just landed from Mars. Then she gave me a cookie. Maybe she thought I was hungry. That moment made me laugh so hard, but it also made me proud. English was becoming part of my daily life, even by accident. And guess what? My confidence started to grow. I no longer whispered English under my breath. I started ordering coffee in English at international cafes. I helped tourists find directions. I answered emails for my company in English. It was all small stuff. But small stuff adds up, like drops filling a glass. And one day, that glass overflows. I began to understand that fluency is not a final destination. It's not a test you pass once and forget. It's a relationship you build day by day. Sometimes you feel close, sometimes you feel distant, but you always keep showing up. I also faced frustration. Oh yes, there were days when I forgot words I had known for months. Days when someone spoke too fast and I couldn't understand anything. Days when my grammar felt like spaghetti. But instead of quitting, I smiled. I told myself, even native speakers forget words. Even they make mistakes. English wasn't a race. It was a dance. And I was learning the steps. The real beauty of this journey is that it didn't just teach me English. It taught me how to keep going, how to laugh at my mistakes, how to stay curious, how to believe in myself even when the mirror says otherwise. Looking back, I can say this. I didn't become fluent overnight. I became fluent by showing up when I didn't feel ready, by smiling through confusion, by making English part of my life, not just part of my schedule. And that mirror, the one with the spoon microphone and shampoo audience, it still hangs in my bathroom. But now, when I look into it, I don't see someone afraid to speak. I see someone who speaks with joy, with confidence, with heart. And I know this is just the beginning. It happened on a rainy Tuesday morning, not during a lesson, not during a test, not even in a conversation I planned. I was standing at the bus stop, holding my umbrella in one hand and a coffee in the other. A woman turned to me and asked, "Do you know if the number 24 bus already passed?" I looked up at her. For a second, my old habits almost returned. The silence, the nervous smile, the short reply. But something inside me was different that day. I took a breath, smiled, and said, "Yes, it passed about 10 minutes ago. But the next one should come soon." My voice sounded calm. My sentence was clear. And most of all, I wasn't afraid. She smiled back. "Oh, great. I thought I might have missed it for good." I laughed gently and said, "No, this city's buses are late more than they are early." It wasn't just about answering her question. It was about the flow, the comfort, the connection. That tiny 5-minute conversation felt like a quiet celebration. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't translating in my head. I wasn't trying to be perfect. I was simply speaking with my own words in my own rhythm with a quiet confidence I didn't know I had. As I sat down on the bus, I looked out the window and smiled to myself. It felt like magic, but I knew it wasn't. That moment was the result of everything I had done over the past few months, maybe even years. All the podcasts I had listened to while walking, the YouTube videos I played during lunch, the mirror conversations I had with myself before sleep, they had built up to this. My brain had finally accepted English, not just as a subject, but as a friend, a living, breathing language that now lived inside me. I remember once thinking that fluency would feel like crossing a finish line, that one day I would just arrive. But the truth is, it didn't come like a celebration. It came like sunlight slipping through the clouds, soft, unexpected, and quietly life-changing. The more I spoke, the more I realized that fluency isn't perfection. It's freedom. Freedom to make mistakes. Freedom to laugh. Freedom to be understood, even when my grammar isn't. There was a time when I was afraid of every word I said. I'd rehearse sentences in my head before speaking, and even then, I'd freeze. I remember ordering food once and asking for a chicken rice bowl, but my accent made the server ask me to repeat 3 times. I went home feeling defeated. I thought I would never be able to sound natural. But now, I realize that fluency has nothing to do with sounding like a native speaker. It has everything to do with confidence, with presence, with connection. People don't care if you sound perfect. They care if you are present with them, if your words carry meaning, warmth, intention. So I started talking, not to people at first, to objects. I described everything in English. This is my coffee cup. It's warm and smells sweet. I'm going to drink it slowly. I spoke to my clothes, to my fridge, to my reflection. I narrated my life like a podcast, like I was the host of my own English radio. Now I'm washing dishes. The water is hot. The sponge smells a little weird. It sounds silly, but it worked. It trained my brain to speak automatically, to remove the fear, to replace silence with sound. Then I moved on to people. I started with simple, low-risk interactions. Ordering coffee, asking for directions, saying, "Have a nice day" at the supermarket. Every time I survived a real-life English interaction, I felt stronger. I started to realize something important. People are more patient than we think. Most native speakers don't expect perfect grammar. They just want to understand you. And more often than not, they're happy you're trying. One of the best surprises in my journey was James. a retired man who walked his dog in the same park every morning. I used to see him every day, but never spoke. One day, he looked at me and said, "Good morning." I smiled back and replied, "Good morning." Then he added, "Lovely weather, eh?" I didn't know what to say. It was cloudy, maybe a little cold, so I laughed and said, "Very British." He burst out laughing and said, "You're learning quickly." After that day, we started talking every morning. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes more. James spoke slowly with simple vocabulary and always smiled when I tried something new. He never corrected me harshly. If I said, "Yesterday I go shop," he would reply, "Oh, you went to the shop? Did you buy something nice?" And I would say, "Yes, I went to the shop. I bought some fruit." His gentle way of guiding me gave me the confidence to continue. James didn't know it, but he was my first English-speaking friend, my first language partner, though we never called it that. Those morning conversations became my secret classroom. No books, no homework, just life. Just stories. I learned new words like cue, rain check, and knackered. I practiced past tenses and idioms without even knowing I was doing it. Most importantly, I learned that English is not just grammar. It's culture, humor, rhythm. It's the way people pause, the way they raise their eyebrows, the way they say, "Oh, really?" when they're not really surprised. And the only way to learn all that is to be around it, to live it, breathe it, feel it. I started doing things that scared me. I joined a book club, even though I was afraid I wouldn't understand the discussions. The first time I spoke, my voice trembled. I said, "I like this story because it feels like real life." My sentence was simple, but one of the members smiled and said, "That's a beautiful way to put it." That one sentence gave me the courage to speak more the next time. Week by week, I became more confident. I even led a discussion once about a book I didn't fully understand, but I shared my honest thoughts, and people listened. They didn't care about my accent. They cared about my ideas. I also got a part-time job at a small cafe. On my first day, I was terrified. I kept repeating the phrases in my head. "Would you like milk with that? Can I help you with anything else?" But of course, people don't always say what you expect. One customer said, "Could I grab a flat white with almond milk to go? Cheers." I froze for a second, then smiled and said, "Yes, of course." I didn't understand every word, but I understood the intention. And I delivered. Day by day, I improved. I learned coffee vocabulary, small talk, polite expressions. I made mistakes. I once gave someone a cold sandwich instead of toasted, and she said, "Don't worry, love. It happens." And that was it. No big problem. No judgment, just learning. The more I interacted with people, the more I realized that fluency is built in the messy moments. When you don't know what to say but try anyway. When you forget a word and use another. When you laugh at your mistake and keep going. Every mistake became a stepping stone. Every conversation, no matter how awkward, became a page in my English diary. I learned to celebrate small wins. Saying a full sentence without hesitating, victory. Understanding a joke on the radio, victory. Ordering confidently at a restaurant, victory. I started writing them down in a notebook, not just to track progress, but to remind myself that growth was happening, even on the days I didn't feel it. And slowly my fear faded. Not completely. I still get nervous sometimes, but I no longer let fear stop me. I learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to speak anyway. One night, I was walking home and saw a tourist couple looking confused. I approached them and said, "Can I help you find something?" They smiled with relief. We're looking for the train station. I gave them directions, even pointed out a shortcut. They thanked me and said, "Your English is great." I laughed and replied, "Thank you, I've been practicing." It was such a simple moment, but it stayed with me. Because that was the day I realized I had become the person I once needed. Someone who could help. Someone who could speak. Someone who belonged. Now, when people ask me, "How did you learn to speak English so well?" I smile and say, "One conversation at a time." I didn't have a secret method. I didn't learn overnight. I just kept showing up every day with curiosity, with joy, with forgiveness. I stopped chasing perfection and started chasing connection. I let English into my life like a new friend. I listened, I laughed, I stumbled, I grew. And that's what I want to tell you. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You don't need to know every word. All you need is the courage to begin, right where you are, with what you know. Talk to yourself. Talk to your coffee cup. Talk to strangers, to dogs, to books, to mirrors. Every sentence you speak is a step forward. Every mistake you make is a lesson. Every moment you choose English is a moment you choose growth. And one day, without warning, you'll find yourself in a conversation, smiling, speaking, understanding, and you'll realize you are no longer learning English. You are living it. And there you have it, my friend. If you've made it this far, thank you for staying with me. I hope this story gave you not just words, but something real, something that lights a little fire inside you. Learning English, or anything worth having, isn't about being perfect. It's not about being fast. It's about showing up for yourself every single day, even when it's hard, even when no one's watching, even when you feel like you're going nowhere. You're not just learning a language, you're building a new version of yourself, a version that can connect with the world, dream bigger, and believe deeper. So whatever your dream is, hold on to it, protect it, feed it with your time, your energy, and your focus. Speak even if your voice shakes. Write even if your grammar isn't perfect. Listen even when you don't understand everything. Keep going, because every small step you take adds up to something powerful. You don't need more time. You just need to use the time you already have with love, with intention, and with courage. Start today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. And remember, your future self is already out there waiting for you to catch up. So go. Run toward your dream. Learn boldly, speak freely, and live fully. Thanks for watching. If this inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs a little light today. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in the power of your journey. You've got this.